Hello, everybody. Colleen and I are playing around with this new AI tool called Notebook LM. We have the Plus version. This is a Google AI tool that is especially handy for planning units of instruction in the classroom. It's also handy for doing lots of personal things as well, and you can find lots of resources for that on YouTube. But today we are planning a unit of study around Earth Day, which is coming up in April this next month. So we started by thinking about how we could build a cross disciplinary unit of study to celebrate Earth Day. So we thought about how Earth Day impacts social studies and science and faith and English and math. We took to the internet and found some resources that we felt would lend good information upon which to build our notebook. We found sources from the National Geographic, the USCCB, the Poetry Foundation, where we found a poem highlighted by Jane Yolen that we felt would be ideal for focusing on ELA skills. And these were all very easy to input into our notebook simply by clicking on this Add Source button. When we did that, it brought us to this window where we could input a website link, a video link from YouTube. We could also input copied text if we found a website that had some text that we wanted to include in the resources that we were going to share with the class. If you already have a folder, perhaps you have used Earth Day as a unit of study in the past, and you are thinking that it included some great resources. You just wanted to maybe jazz it up a little bit. You could also upload resources that you have in your Google Drive to your Notebook LM as well through this Add Sources button.
And you can see right there in the center, upload sources. The other day I opened a book and there was a page out of a book that I wanted to upload. So I scanned it with my phone and then emailed it to myself and was able to just drag and drop it right in there. So you can actually scan in if you have hard copy documents, you can scan them in and you can add those too.
That's a great point. Yes, it says you can upload PDF, TXT files, a markdown file, or an audio file, such as an MP3.
Ooh, I haven't tried
Yes.
that yet. We're gonna have to try that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
So
yeah,
once,
the point here, like it's very easy to add your sources. And our thought process as we started, Crystal said, let's start with this theme because we know in many classrooms, you may or may not actually have curriculum around Earth Day, but there are certainly standards within your curriculum that lend themselves to, what happens, what should we be talking about on Earth Day? Well, there's so much, first of all. So we thought, well, let's focus on a grade band. So we're thinking junior high, and we put together some resources for that age level. So again, there's so much more out there. We could make it a little bit more sophisticated. We started thinking about books and movies that are maybe a little bit higher level. So, well, maybe those are not age appropriate, so we won't add those sources in. But there's a lot more to consider. Or you can certainly add in resources for younger grades as well. But there's plenty out there to find.
mm-hmm. Yeah. We were also thinking about including math, but we couldn't really find any math worksheets online that had much to do with Earth Day. So we are going to jump over to Magicschool AI, which is another fantastic resource. In both of these AI, um, we have free teacher login. So Magicschool, you can have a free login and it gives you access to a good amount of resources that you can use. Um, in Magicschool AI, they have a worksheet generator. So I've got this open and I'm looking at a grade level of 8th grade. I've put a prompt in here to create 5 algebraic word problems about Earth Day. So let's see what it comes up with. I'm going to hit generate and it just goes to town. All right, so I've got some multiple choice questions and even gives me an answer key, so that's good. So let's scroll back up to the top here. All right, so we've got some word problems worksheet. Now there is a caveat with every AI. You have to use your teacher brain, your beautiful, wonderful, knowledgeable teacher brain to look things over and make sure that it makes sense, that it's correct, and that you're going to hand this out to your kids and they're not going to find a whole bunch of errors because that can happen. Um, so you want to make sure when you're looking over the results that it's correct. You want to ensure that it's up to your standards. So you have some fill in the blank with the correct words, and you even got a little word bank, which is actually probably really, we should call it a number bank, an answer bank to fill in there. And then you've got some multiple choice questions here. If 15 students decided to pick up litter and each collected 8 bags, how many bags were collected in total? So you've got some word problems.
I like this. I like this concept because you could, if you really did just want, 5 questions, we've got several different formats of questions here.
Mm.
And if you were working with different groups and different levels of groups, like if you wanted to differentiate, like with the multiple choice, for example, you could remove one of the answers and give fewer choices to the group of students that you're trying to differentiate for, or you can look at the language that's in some of the open-ended or the paragraph word problems and make sure that the language is clear and appropriate for the grade level or the ability levels of the students that are going to be working on those problems. And that's where Crystal was saying, you've got to use your teacher brain to think about those things too. So if you're differentiating and you want to use this, you certainly can. You've just got to, double check your work, double check the AI's work.
That's right. That's right. And then what you can do once you're satisfied with it, or as you're kind of looking it over, this is where if you want to keep everything in your Google Notebook LM, you can go ahead and whoops, almost had it captured there, but you can copy it. I'll just do the top part. And I just copy it, and then I'm going to toggle back over to my add source and go to my copied text, and then I'm going to paste here. And I've got my Earth Day algebraic word problems worksheet copied here. And then I insert this as a source. And now it's included on my list here. And if I want to rename it so I don't forget exactly what it is, I can do that here. This is my math word problems. And then I save that there. So that helps quite a bit to kind of round out the various content areas that you want to include in your notebook. You can certainly use Magicschool to generate a variety of different worksheets by selecting different prompts that you would like to put in. And you can select various grade levels as well. The other AI that we really like is Khan Academy, or it was created by Khan Academy, and it's called Khanmigo. Khanmigo has a variety of tools that you can use to differentiate instruction for your neurodiverse classrooms. This tool is called Make It Relevant. And for some of your students who are always asking, why do I need to know this? Why are you teaching us this? This is a great tool because you can say, this is why. And so the Make It Relevant tool gives us a couple prompts to think about. It asks to provide an objective. So we've considered our objective for Earth Day is that students will discuss ways we can sustain natural resources. And the class profile is that the class is celebrating Earth Day and learning about conservation. And I can just add here that the eighth grade class, just to make it a little bit more specific, is celebrating Earth Day and learning about conservation. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit start and see what Khanmigo comes up with. And this again is a free account for teachers. So it's giving us some ideas. We have a community conservation project where students identify local conservation issues and propose actionable solutions. They'll be in a group activity where they research and present on a local environmental issue, such as water conservation, waste reduction, develop a plan to address it. Sounds like a good idea. It doesn't cost me any money, and I don't have to ask parents to bring in any materials or recycled goods from home. So that's really great. A classroom debate could be fun. Or another idea here is to inspire students to design an eco-friendly product or solution that contributes to resource sustainability. So that gets them thinking about something innovative.
That is very thinky stuff.
Yes. So, and what I really like about Khanmigo is that they always remind us to use our teacher brain. See, this note is always at the top. This tool needs your expertise to be excellent. Be sure to review these ideas for accuracy and relevance. Don't you love that?
Now, before you put in eighth grade, we had looked at this a little while ago, and you specified eighth grade. So these are more high level activities because it gave
Yeah.
us a wider variety. It gave us more activities and a wider variety of activities when we looked at it earlier when Crystal did not specify that it was for
Mhm.
eighth graders. And one of those examples was having students do a walk around in the school and on campus and categorize items that they find into three different categories. And that would be like trash, recycling, and something. What was the other one? There was another category, but
Compost or something, I think.
perhaps, yeah, things they can reuse.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, thinking about, um, you can again think about the level of your students, and if you want to do something that might be for a wider range of abilities, you could say instead of just eighth grade, you could say sixth to eighth grade, or seventh to ninth grade, if you really want a wider range, and if you want to differentiate projects a little bit. Just a thought.
Yeah. And again, if you want to keep everything all in one place, whoops, you can highlight this and copy it and then add it as a source to your notebook. And then we can rename it. Both Magicschool and Khanmigo are able to save things that you create. So if you don't want to transfer them over, if you have an account there, you can always keep things there as well. Okay. So now that we've got lots of sources in here, we can kind of play with the other widgets.
Yeah, let's see what it creates for us. Now, we have not looked at what we've not looked at what it wants to create for us. So we can let's go over to study guide,
Okay.
see what it comes up with. It's a lot of information to synthesize.
Mm-hmm. Look how fast that was. I'd never created a study guide so quickly. So the way it creates a study guide is it generates questions based on all of the resources that have been input into the notebook, and then it provides the answers. and it
Wow.
combines them all.
Look at that. It did. It integrated the USCCB document, social studies, the rights of nature article. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then it distinguished between renewable and non-renewable. So again, like a wide range of levels on blooms here. So we can do some comparing, or we can do some synthesis of information and we can come up with new ideas. It's asking for all of that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Advocate for environmental protection. That's a high level thing that students would need to be able to come up with. How would they advocate? Um, how would they do that? What resources would they use? Um, there's one there, I'm looking at number 6, providing an example from scripture that supports a connection. So it's asking them to find some evidence. So based on all of your resources here, there's quite a bit that can be done. The one thing that I find with this study guide tool is that uh, you you wouldn't just hand that out to kids and say, here's a study guide. Go dig into these questions and then I'm going to create an assessment. That's not, I know that that's how we traditionally think of a study guide, but I don't think that's the purpose of this study guide tool. There are many different ways that you could break this down. When I've put in other resources like literature resources into here, it comes up with a lot of great questions that you can use to guide discussions, to allow students to have small group discussions. Just kind of think of it in a different way than we do a traditional study guide.
Yep. Okay. That's the study guide. What do you want to look at next?
I don't know. What did it do with the timeline?
Let's see. That's a great question because, gosh, there's not much timeline stuff here.
Right.
It's going to do timeline of main events related
Wow.
to
It went all the
environment.
way back to Genesis.
Oh my goodness.
It did. It created a timeline. I'm impressed.
The first Earth Day, 1970.
Hmm.
Wow. Earth Day becomes an event celebrated in more than 140 countries. And it ties in faith.
Yeah. Went all the way back.
Wow.
So with a timeline like this, yeah, again, we'd have to think. So what would we want to do with this? Would we want to have some students create a visual timeline of things?
Mm.
With putting some pictures on things or digging into events that occurred on that timeline. So you could actually create a visual, you know, that would be kind of a cool project.
Check this out. A cast of characters. Look who's
God,
first.
look at that. God, Pope Francis, Pope Benedict. Check this out. I love it.
Yep. Yep. The US Senator from Wisconsin, the EPA. It's pretty cool. The
Jane
rates of
Yolen. There's Jane. Yep.
Jane, yes. So you can imagine, I mean, we did take something as an event and use some resources that, were rather scattered, a variety of resources. If you were looking at something, more concrete in nature, or using resources that could be aligned a little bit more strategically in a timeline with a true cast of characters, this could really be very cool.
Sure. Okay. So this, yes, certainly. This is very big. This would be like if we were going to have the junior high team of teachers come together and spend the whole day just learning about Earth Day. You have a
Mm-hmm.
variety. So what you have is a full day of different activities and concepts and all of these different. Again, it's cross curricular. So
That's
all of the
right.
teachers would come together, and then the students could actually you could combine the students in different ways and have 6th through 8th graders working together in different teams to create things that they would then be presenting to different teams later on in the day. You've got all of your subjects covered. There's some music in there. I put some music in there. So
Right.
there's, again, it's a pretty full day of events with Earth Day. So
That's
before we close, there's one thing that we want to, my absolute favorite tool on this thing
mm-hmm.
is the deep dive conversation. So I'm really curious
Okay.
what they've come up with for their podcast. So
All
let's
right.
try that.
Okay. I'm going to generate a podcast.
And okay, so generating the podcast takes a little bit more time than the other resources, and it depends on how many different resources you put in it. So the other day when I put one thing in there and it came up with, I want to say it was like a 2.5 to 3 minute conversation about, it was just a couple of paragraphs that I had put in that was still pretty excellent.
Mm,
And it had some analysis to it. And then there was another notebook that we were looking at that had probably 4 or 5 resources in it. And that was like an 8 to 8.5 minute podcast. So I'm guessing this one is going to be a little bit more intensive than that. And then of course, so things that you can do with a podcast. I was having a conversation with a teacher about this the other day. She wanted to have students, and she has students in small groups that work in different stations on um, different activities. So if she was going to have students in a station listen to like a 3 to 5 minute podcast, she could then use the rest of the time, if her block of time is 15 to 20 minutes, they could
mm-hmm.
listen to a podcast and then work with a partner to create their own conversation about the topics that were being studied that day. So they would have resources. It's like a modeled conversation
Yep.
that synthesizes different topics for them. Or the other thing that, if synthesis is a little bit too high level, what they could do is just have one of the partners interview the other one, say that the other person is a expert on a particular topic, and they could just create a little 2 minute interview.
That's right.
So yeah, as we thought, this is a little bit longer. So it's almost 15 minutes long. Go ahead and hit play, Crystal, and then let's skip to the middle and just kind of see what they're talking about.
Oh, can you hear it on your end, Colleen? Okay. Let me try this. Do that again.
History, even a
There we
kid's
go.
song
Yep.
about protecting our planet. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to pick out like the key points from all of it and really focus on what you need to know and what you can actually do.
Yeah, this is a great collection of sources. And what's interesting is that they kind of all come together around this idea that we depend entirely on nature, and we really have to take care of it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's start with the basics. When we say natural
Right. Should I skip
resources,
into the middle?
what do we
Yeah.
actually mean?
Well, put simply, and the environment. So bring your own water bottle, coffee cup, shopping bags, even cutlery, and think about how you use water. Just turning off the tap while brushing your teeth saves a lot of water over time.
Those small things really add up when you think about it. What about energy use in our homes?
For that, it's about being mindful. Turn off lights when you leave a room. Unplug electronics you're not using. They often use power even when off. And don't leave things charging longer than needed. When it comes to transportation, try walking or biking for short trips, or carpool when you have to drive. Everything helps reduce how much we depend on fossil fuels.
And how about what we buy?
Being a conscious consumer is key. Choose products with minimal packaging and make sure it's recyclable. Avoid things
All
that
right. Can
can't
you
be
hit pause
recycled,
for a
like
second?
single-use.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking is, if this was like a day-long thing where kids were throughout the day, different groups of kids would be listening to this conversation, perhaps there could be a visual, a giant graphic organizer on poster paper where after kids listen to this, or when they do different activities, you can have visual organizers up in the rooms where what does sustainability look like? Sound like, that kind of thing, or what are things that we can do to conserve water, energy. There are different ways that you could visually organize that information, but kids would be taking information away from not just this conversation, this podcast conversation, but all of the different activities that they would be doing throughout the day. And then they could synthesize that information on visuals.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. And what I love about this as a resource is that this is truly just for the educators. And then you, all you can do, they make it very easy. You just download this and you upload it to your Google Classroom. Google is so wonderful about making sure that everything is fully integrated and easy to use. And between Google Classroom and the notebook, you can share the notebook very easily with your colleagues. And as Colleen described, have a planning session where everything is cross-curricular, multidisciplinary, and full of good resources that you can all share. And then you take these timelines, these notes, these resources, podcasts, discussions, and then you add those to your Google Classroom for your students to access and interact with. And it's the perfect resource.
All right. Well, I think we've given you enough food for thought here with 3 different AI programs with different purposes, but hopefully it has been a helpful conversation. We've had a good time. Hope you have too.
Thank you.